Today's table talk is with people that are very near and dear to me. I'll be chatting with Ren and her daughter Lindsey, while Beth will be leading our conversation. I'm so glad you're here.
Welcome, ladies. Today we're having a captivating conversation about something that affects almost everyone, either directly or a family member, and that is cancer. And I know each of us have been touched by that. And furthermore, we're talking about cancer in women. Now, obviously a diagnosis is scary, but we're not talking about how one survives a diagnosis, but we're talking about how women can thrive through it. And Christine, you're the founder of C2 Cancer Redefined, and your goal is to create a sanctuary for women to come to and thrive and find beauty in the midst of such a hard time. So can you tell us a little bit about your story and where this idea came from?
Yes, thank you. So my diagnosis, I was diagnosed 4 years ago. And with the perspective that I have now, I am realizing that through that journey, I didn't find anything that would show me a way forward in a very clear-cut way. What I had to do was sort of, on my own, find different modalities, different people, different ways of being that would give me a sense that I could thrive as opposed to just surviving something, right? And so the fear, when you're diagnosed, you have this incredible fear that just overcomes you. And I needed to find a way through that to create calm, in every part of my life. It wasn't just like when I was going to the doctor or going through something. It was like every moment in my life needed to find something to hold on to.
Now, you weren't finding any resources to really help support you during that time of your diagnosis.
Well, they were there, but there wasn't a blueprint, right? They were all there. Like, we were in Atlanta, we all, are here. It's amazing, right? There's amazing practitioners, there's amazing doctors. I was at Emory and totally in love with my medical team, but I wanted more because I kind of felt that there could be more, that I didn't need to face everything with such fear. And also it was really, I was in despair in some points.
It's a lot of dread.
I mean,
It's a lot of dread. You sort of want to put your mind at ease, but in the back of your mind, you've always got this, but what if?
Yeah, exactly.
And that what if is what really can consume you, especially when you're in your own element, in the dark, and thinking about this. And also when you have children, because you're looking at your babies.
Yep.
Because they're always your babies.
Yep, exactly.
And it just goes, okay, what if I'm not here?
Exactly. And it's a spiral. You go into this spiral, and it's a very dark place. And I just knew in my heart or something, I don't know, that I had to do more than what I was given. I don't know. And it's not to say, I'm not trying to say anything about the medical community. They are saviors, It's more about augmenting it. It's more about bringing in other ways to just travel along the path. And that path is bumpy and ups and downs. And so if you have some little bit of a thread that you can hold on to, it can change something.
Let's be honest, like, hospitals are not Zen places.
Right.
They're not welcoming or warm.
And they try, but
it just by nature. And what you're saying is you're complementing medical care with an idea of threading through modalities that can support your treatment.
Exactly.
But also help enhance or lift up your mental state.
Absolutely.
Now, what examples of different types of modalities does C2 have in mind?
So we have like a menu. Like, I think about going to a restaurant, right? And it's just a whole menu of different things, because what might resonate for you or you, it doesn't resonate for me. We're all different. So I put together kind of what I did as sort of a blueprint, but we're adding to it all the time because I'm always in a state of evolving and learning and meeting new people and things like that. So, but what I tried to do is come up with like 6 sort of guiding principles, if you will, that they kind of oversee like mind, body, spirit, right? Because ultimately we're comprised of that. You can't just treat the body and not treat the mind. You can't, it's all one. We're one big wheel, right?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's kind of where my philosophy of where I've come from with it. And for an example, like, I think one of the biggest things that I did from the very beginning was I just became still. Like, I literally and figuratively, when I got the diagnosis, through the phone, I had to, like, I gave it to my husband because I couldn't hear the words.
Right.
Do you know? And so I gave up control, which I think for women, I think that's a really hard thing to do.
Oh, God, yeah.
I mean, in general.
Like someone else having control of your life, especially your health.
But I just had to, because the fear was so, like, bubbling that I just had to go really quiet, really still.
Now, when you were looking online, like the call came in, you handed the phone to Dave, your mind is reeling, you start doing research online, and I, would open the floor to anyone to answer this, but when you're looking for resources online, you can't really find everything in one place, but also a lot of what you read or what you can find is also exacerbates fear.
I was just going to say that it's almost like going down a rabbit hole. Totally. When they say those words, stage 1, you think, I don't know what stage 1 means. I've only heard the worst case scenario, stage 4.
Right.
So I didn't know where that was on my scale of things. And I had already had a precursor. Before I left the States and moved to England, I had to have a full hysterectomy because they found adenomas.
Right.
So, I was just like, at that point, I had too much on my plate. I had to get kids. I had to find a home. I didn't have time for this.
Right.
And that's how.
Except it hits you over the head and says,
it does.
You make time, sister.
but I couldn't deal with it. Right. And I just thought, okay, this is no different than if you had your appendix out.
Right.
That's how I kind of,
Which is
did
smart.
it. But then you go, and part of the procedure is to get a mammogram. And I said this to you, then they find something else. And at the beginning, you're going, I got this. Then all of a sudden, somebody throws another little pebble on that scale. And you're like,
what?
Okay, do I have this?
Yeah.
Okay, I've got this. So that was my precursor. And I got through that with no issues. But then when I left to go to England, about 10 years after I got there, I knew, and I was going through another difficult time in my life. And the problem is, I don't think women give themselves enough time to read their bodies. They just make excuses for what they're feeling. And I found that I was doing that. I was going through a separation. I lost 2 stone. Great, I look much better. Maybe I'll get someone else. I didn't pay attention.
Right.
And then when it started to become, basically, like you said, a smack in the face. Even then I knew something was wrong. And I kind of knew before I actually went for diagnosis. But I had my children. My daughter was coming to visit us. And we had planned this fabulous trip to the Amalfi Coast. The last thing I was going to do was start this journey whilst in the midst of that. I needed to get my kids through what was happening in our family life. And I wanted them to know our family is okay. The last thing they want to hear is that their mom is sick.
Yeah.
And we had this
so many layers.
Yeah, it's a lot. So again, like you said, in your mind, you don't give it credence. You're like, no. It'll be there when I get back. And I think I had to learn to listen to myself this time, because I thought, it's going to be nothing. And I don't think I realized it until I spoke to her, because I had gotten the diagnosis, but I didn't want to tell her,
No, it's no.
Okay.
No, you're good,
No, Ren. Oh my gosh.
This is so silly, because it's been almost...
It's not, though, because it's so...
I've never talked about it.
That's the thing, too, right? Because you bury it.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. So when I had to tell them, it became real.
Yeah.
And...
You put it into words, right?
You put it into words.
And then that means it's real. Yeah. And then you're like, I can't put this all back. I can't.
No.
And it's like, it becomes...
And it was actually very fortunate because I had the issues before I left for England. when I started to get the symptoms, I didn't ignore them. I thought, this is, okay, got to do something. But again, because of everything I was going in with the children, I just went, okay, I got to do this. You know, we've got our trip planned in August. I'll start chemo in September. And so I finally told everyone, again, you put on this front.
Well, you have to. I did the same.
Yeah, you put on this front.
Because you have children.
I'm good.
Yeah, no,
I'm
you
good.
have. You do.
And then I still had Daniel in the home. So he was most affected by it because he saw mommy get sick.
Right.
And it was hard.
It's very hard. No.
And you're in a country, you don't know the medical system, which, by the way, are brilliant.
Right,
NHS
of course.
is brilliant.
I mean,
But they have more support for those in later stages.
absolutely.
They don't take care of
not in the
us.
beginning.
Exactly.
Yeah,
and it's like, my thinking is like, why can't we front end it, right? Like, why can't we bring some modalities that will help you remain calm, will help you, your mindset, will set you up for beauty, right? Like, I can't tell you like how many times just everything about the process was so ugly, for lack of a better word.
It is.
Like, I mean, I literally had all this paperwork and all this crap, and I was like, I'm gonna put this in a nice bag because I'm gonna walk in there with this beautiful bag because I'm gonna feel like I'm important and this is gonna be a good thing. I'm going to make this better in some way and make my mind stay just even or just not go down that spiral.
Yeah, that's
right?
the problem.
It's the spiral.
Yeah, exactly. Once you start to give in to just that little thought.
Yeah. Or Google. If you Google too
don't Google.
much,
You
Do not
because
Google.
all you hear about are all the negative things.
Absolutely.
And it's like, oh my God, I can't be on this. I don't want to be part of this group.
And then they treat you. Some of them have really. If you're very lucky, in England they have an association called Macmillan House, and they deal with, again, stage 3 and above.
Right.
But I had a friend who was a midwife, and she got me in with someone. And one of the things I don't know about in the States, but in England, it was very sterile. Like you're in a room with 6 other people, so
Right.
you're just a number on that bed.
Yeah.
And it's not anything against the care.
It's what they have to do.
But when you have someone poking you and someone telling you this and that and the other, and it's like, okay, put this over your face, and you know. You almost feel embarrassed that you are not as I was, the 50-year-old woman. I feel like I'm 10 again.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
I'm this scared little child.
There's no empowerment.
And you can't express that to your partner or to your children.
Yeah.
It's like, nope, can't let them know I'm this scared. But sometimes it's best to do that. And once you let people know that, and that's something I like about what you're doing.
Yeah.
There wasn't that, let's deal with the mind.
Yeah.
It was all about, I've got to find the strength. I've got to find the strength.
And how do you do that, right? One of the
you
things,
just keep going to work.
One of the things that for me that was amazing was automatically I was working with a life coach to begin with. We were in the middle of a move. I didn't even, like when this all happened, I didn't even have a doctor. But we were in the middle of a move, and so I was working with a coach to help me sort of make this move, you know, better than the rest of them. And so I had that resource kind of just set up already for me. And she did a visualization with me right before my first surgery. And I was petrified. It was like in September, I was like diagnosed, whatever, that summer. And
I actually remember the date, July 29, 2011.
yeah, I do too.
It's so sad.
I know.
I can't remember
July
my children's
10th.
birthdays
Yeah,
sometimes.
no, you do.
But that I remember.
It's horrible that you have to. But yeah, I know it's that you do.
It's the
true.
oddest
It's
thing.
embedded. If you
It's
just
embedded.
Don't,
You
Yes.
were embedded.
Don't forget
You know, like her birthday. She born
Right.
40 years ago, and
Right.
and she'll say, "Mom, it's my birthday." Oh God, I've forgotten.
I know.
Yeah.
I'm terrible.
Well,
that
it's
way.
trauma.
Yeah.
It's totally trauma. And if you can't remove the fear from that, your body will stay in that trauma zone the entire time. You know, so when I did that visualization, which it wasn't even like something I did knowingly, it was like she just suggested it and I did it. And oh my gosh, like literally I heard, like I'm going to start crying, but it's like I felt such a sense of calmness that came over me, right? And it was the day before, like I was leaving that morning or whatever. And I'm not going to say that I had this like, oh my God, I can do anything. But there was just this like level of like,
you got this.
Just simple. I don't know how to describe it. It was like a very simple way of showing up. And I was like floating a little bit. And I always think about that word float as something, if we could learn to float through this, it would be such an incredible way to approach all the ups and downs of it, right? And if we could just learn to be still and float. And there's so many different ways that we can do that and show people how to do that. But that was like as I look back now 4 years later, I see how these things kind of showed up for me along the way.
Yeah.
You know, and now looking back, I'm like, people need to know about this. Like women can like create a different thriving way. Like what if you were actually looked at this as like, I might be able to be transformed by this into something more beautiful instead of being broken and surviving. What's next really are more of these conversations, quite frankly. We're going to just tell the story to different people along the way and then sort of build it organically. Because what does that look like is, you know, my goal is one day to have an immersive stay where women could go, you know, for a 3-day redefine themselves in Costa Rica. You know, that's sort of what the end game is. But for now, we're going to build this sort of organically online where there'll be different programs and different ways. Like there might be somebody, like it's just like anything, right, online, where you want to be a DIY person or you want to have a total guide to help you. Or you just want one simple little thing. It's a menu, right? So if you just want one little simple thing like, oh, I like that idea of maybe doing Reiki. Here's our Reiki list of people that are incredible that can do it remotely. Or you may want to just do a DIY thing where it's like 3 days, but you do it on your own time. You know, 3 days meaning you kind of experience it in your own way. Or you want a guide. You want a wellness guide with you who can walk you through your entire journey.
I think looking even further from what you and I have discussed is that you're also ultimately looking for a place where someone can find community.
Yes.
Because tell us about your experience with being able to connect or find a place somewhere during your diagnosis and during cancer and how that can be difficult.
Well, there's a lot out there. I mean, you know, especially if you just go online, there's so many different forums and communities and things like that. But I didn't feel aligned with anything that I wanted to sign up for because I was like almost running the other way. Like, that's not who I am.
That's too much. That's
too
much.
not who I am.
No, I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
No, I'm not doing that. That's for people who need it.
Yeah. Like, I'm not doing that. And I just want to create a space, a sanctuary online where people just want to be a part, women or, you know, their family, because it always affects the family too, want to be a part of that, right? That they see themselves sitting around a table like this. And
hit it on the head because one of the other things that you've said is you want to find that place, but a lot of times when you are diagnosed, exactly what I did, you don't want to tell people.
Right.
You want, you first of all, you don't want them looking at you any particular way.
Right.
And it wasn't about losing hair or anything like that. It was about, I don't want people to look at me and say, hey, oh, bless, what's wrong with her?
Right.
And
you don't want to be part of that.
You don't want to wear it.
Yeah.
And I think for you, it was
it was
you
hard.
didn't want to have to wear this every day and feel like everyone was looking at you
and
differently.
Yeah. And online, no one has to know, you know?
Right.
Only those that are going through it at the time would have been so helpful.
Right.
But for me, it was like I was in a community. Everyone, you know, obviously knew my personal situation. So everybody was trying to help.
Right.
But it wasn't helpful in the sense because what I was doing was putting on a front.
Just a front,
I was really wanting to just dive in my bed and fall asleep for the next 8 weeks.
Yes.
But you had to, in a way it's good, in a way it's bad.
Right.
But online, that's what I liked about it, was like, I can just check in. Nobody can see me.
Right.
Nobody knows that I've got it.
And you don't have to go anywhere, too, right?
I mean,
you don't
I
have
chose
to
outpatient because of that.
And getting in a car, right? Even if, like, say I would do like a great massage, like a cranial massage or something, right?
Best.
Or reflexology. I was like running through Atlanta traffic to get there, then to come back to get my kid. Like, nothing about it was fluid. It really wasn't. It wasn't fluid. You said exactly, like, right? So
it actually can create even more stress.
Right.
You're trying to go get healing, and then you're like dealing with the other stressors of your life because it's a new additive.
Right.
To find it.
And so what if it was more intentional, right? That when you did something, you had an intention behind, like, I'm going to put this water in this beautiful glass. And I'm going to treat myself to this. I'm going to sit down and eat, like little tiny things that you can put into your day where everything has this beauty. I don't know how else to describe it. It's just like one thing I did, and I completely believe this, that I changed my bedroom. I created a sanctuary in my bedroom so that when I woke up, my sight lines were comforting. Like, that it was like when my first eyes opened, I felt surrounded with what I wanted. And I feel like that's something that people should do, women should do, right? It doesn't have to be like a major reconstruction of your house. It's just your sightline when you wake up. Put something that is incredibly beautiful there. That when you wake up, you know that you're loved, you're wanted, you're heard, you're seen, you're whatever it is for you, you know?
And two, when you say beauty, I think it is that idea of just finding the beauty of your life.
Right, exactly.
In whatever small moments, and then the things that bring you joy, right? It always kind of comes back to joy. But I think that it's fascinating because you keep saying, because it's beautiful and creating beauty, but it is, and I think it's so hard for people to see the beauty in such a negative diagnosis, not because it isn't negative, but because you can use it for good.
Right.
Right.
Yeah, exactly. It's like transformative. It could be transformative, right? That your life can actually, even in the midst of it, it's not about like surviving and at the end. It's like in the midst of it, you can find that those little tiny touch points that can help you to see that your life is a piece of art here. It's being transformed, you know, even in the midst of it.
So I do have another question. You were touching on it, but like Lindsey is sitting here, Ren's daughter, and Lindsey as a family member, there's a lot to process there too. In addition to that, being a family member that's a caretaker. So you were kind of talking about families a little bit, but like having also areas where they could go and find some sort of support, because as young women, and women are often the caretakers, we struggle to watch a person that we love suffer.
Right.
And would this be a space for those women as well?
Absolutely. I mean, there has to be, right? I mean, it's a family disease.
I mean, for my mom and I, I'm a lot like her, and you know, I don't share everything that's wrong right away, and she didn't share with me until we were on that trip. And I remember once she did share it with me, I went into immediate like caretaker, and I Googled everything and what can I do for her, and you know, making sure my brothers were sorted and making sure that she had everything she wanted. And I remember her just sitting with me, and she's like, "I just want to be your mom."
Right. Yeah, you just want to be normal.
That was it. And so that trip
that was taken away from you.
Yeah.
That's what cancer does. It takes it away from you.
Yeah, everybody starts to look at you, you know.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I'm good. I'm good. I mean, I was tired, and I knew this was in the back of my mind, but I was having such a good time with my kids.
Right.
You know, and I knew she would worry because she was so far away. So it was very important for me that she knew I'm going to be okay.
Right.
Because it made it worse. I had to get back on a plane and
leave
leave her.
Yeah.
You know, my brothers were little.
Right.
And they're just trying to figure out what's wrong with mom.
Right.
And so that trip was amazing. It was just, I knew I had to put everything down and just say, okay, this has to be the trip of a lifetime. And it was just, that's what we did.
Right.
And we didn't think about it.
Right.
It was, we'll worry about it when you have to go back and talk to doctors and things like that. But having, a platform or a menu like that for, at least for a family member, to just go on and just say, okay, how do I process this for my mom and for myself? And can I have this conversation with her to just say, hey, Mom, let's look at this. There's something else to see other than,
just the
gloom
doctors
and droom and the doctors and sterile hospitals. So it was tough, but
it was. And I had so many events going on, like you were coming over, and then Jake was going off to university.
That's a lot.
There's a lot of change.
And I wanted to make that experience for him, as good as I could. I mean, we left just as the time Lindsey was going into uni, and I wanted to take Jake, and I wanted to do the whole, let's go and celebrate, let's get your stuff for your dorm. I want to do that. And he just kept looking at me and kept saying, are you okay? And then I got annoyed. I was like, I'm fine. I'm fine.
Know. Well,
and she knows that when I say I'm fine, I'm fine. If you give me too much leeway, I will fall to pieces. I need that strength. And even though I was going through a personal issue, it actually spurred me on. And once I realized that I could tell people without, it was only close people, and they didn't look at me differently, because unfortunately we had an incident where a friend of mine shouts because I was struggling to get to a queue at the airport. She's like, my friend has cancer.
It's like the worst thing you could ever do.
And I'm just like, seriously? Did you really
want to use the cancer card?
Did you want to do that, really? And she was like, I was like, please don't do that. I do not want to be that person. That is not me. And it was only, I even went to work. I chose to do chemo as outpatient. I felt like I had more control. That way I took it the way I wanted to, and I dealt with it. And I stayed at work for as long as I could, because now I was a single person. And then my boss actually approached me, and he says, Ren, you're not firing at all pistons. And this was, I think, 6 weeks into my chemo. And when I finally told him, he just went, are you serious?
Wow.
And I said, yeah.
Wow.
I said, I'm fine. I'm sorry if I haven't been like, he goes, no. You've been doing a great job, but you're not, I can tell that you have like, I'll get through this. I've only got 6 more weeks of this, and then I'm done. And, him just saying, I know you got this. I was like, great, don't take me off my job.
Don't take it away from me.
I can't not do that. And it was Daniel that had the most difficult time. And I was so busy on keeping up, the front. I've got this. I was tired. You know this.
I know.
I think I might have even been on the same medication. I was on Xylitol. And it just wipes you. But you still got to do laundry. You still got to iron the clothes, and you don't want him to see that. And I didn't realize I wasn't checking in with him. I was just busy putting up this persona. And then I got a call from the school. And the school said, I hope you don't mind, because he went to a Catholic school. And he goes, I hope you don't mind. He's just come in and he's just told me what's happened. I was so busy focusing on me. I didn't check him, and he was struggling.
I know.
And to this day, he struggles sometimes. He worries. And that's what I didn't want. And by not acknowledging what he was going through, I was ignoring what he was doing. And as a mom, that hurts.
That hurts. That's a huge burden,
It's what I wanted not to do, and it ended up being worse. And when she would call, I'm like, I'm fine. I'm fine. But I know that she was texting her brothers. So I knew I had to keep it up, Nobody sees.
It's a lot.
Yeah. They know me as a strong woman. Can't stop that now.
Well, it kind of goes to this idea that you guys can elaborate more on, of mindset and how important it is to healing. And when you think you're portraying strength, because in your mind, I'm sure it's like a million miles an hour, and you're just trying to get through the day and do the things you have to do to survive. And you're not really processing, I think, more deeply, and like obviously with Danny or Daniel, but how important is mindset in healing?
I mean, I think it's everything.
This is like, I've never talked. I'm not even to my children. I've never told them.
Aww.
It's So it's a good place.
Yeah.
And because it's been 10 years, I'm thinking, I'm good.
Yeah.
I can do this. I said to you last night,
know.
yeah, I'm fine. Da, 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 da. And then all of a sudden, you start thinking
about it. Yeah. I mean, it
If
can,
I had done this back then, I might not feel this way.
You talk about it a little bit in pieces, and you'll share it with me. You don't share it as much with Danny or Jake, and I think just because, you know, they're just my brothers. They're a little bit softer than I am. So,
they're a little bit softer.
just saying.
Yeah.
And so she tends to kind of let me know everything that's going on, the good and the bad, and
But as a matter of fact, not as a...
yeah, and you know, she'll just say, Lindsey, I'm tired, or Lindsey, I just can't do this. And that was what I was hearing on the phone. I can't do this.
Right.
And I'm like, you can do this.
Right.
We're going to do it. You have to do it. But sometimes you don't know what to say.
You don't.
On your end. So it's like you don't have this platform. You don't have a book of words to say, what do I say to my mom?
Right.
Because I don't even know what to say to myself.
Right.
So all I could do was just hug her and just say, we have to do this.
Right.
And I don't know if that was always the right things to say, but, you know.
I'm a stubborn person.
I don't know.
Very stubborn.
I mean, it's hard though too, because a lot of people come at you with different things, right? Like
everyone has, oh, I tried this.
yeah, and you just don't want to hear any of that,
No,
right?
this is my journey. Leave me to
Everyone has a medicine book of how to do it.
Or what, you know, how many lasagnas can you actually eat?
Oh my Lord. And the food, especially in the South.
You know, yeah.
And the South is like, I know what she needs.
Yeah.
Lasagna. Banana bread. You know, something in bulk.
Yeah.
Well, I would have settled for the lasagna. All I kept getting was bangers and mash.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay, let's not have any red meat. Let's not have any pork with this particular cancer.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And that's the thing too. It's like one of our programs that we're going to partner up with is to help you with your food. Like that was one of the things I knew I had to change. And if we could just show them very simply, easily, you know, how to do it. Like, I mean, the hospital gave me chocolate when I was diagnosed.
Oh, yeah.
Like it was part of the kit that they gave you. And it's like, really?
What does chocolate do?
Sugar is
Sugar
just
exacerbates
cancer.
cancer.
It's an endorphin, isn't it? Like chocolate has that thing that...
Yeah, but it's just...
Yeah, it actually makes cancer grow 14 times more.
Well, it's a good thing I never liked chocolate.
See, I would be like, if you were putting that in front of my face and you didn't know, that's the thing. It's like a kind of this wonderful menu, which I love that you use menu of like where you can go for information, for support, and then also finding these types of services that are going to help get you on the right track.
Right.
Oh, go ahead.
No, and all of that's out there. I think there is the thing out there, but I think what's missing is just, I don't know, I just come back to this lens of beauty where you want to be there. Yes. Like you don't feel shy, you don't say, no, I don't want to be there. Like I want to do it where people feel invited, where they feel that they want to be there. Like they, you know, that there's something there that feels like them. You know, even like when I was researching like art therapy, for example, which is a really amazing modality that you can do. Like some of these places that have that, it's like, it doesn't even feel like I would even want to take a class, even if it's online. Like there's just something missing, I think. There's just like a thread that I want to create that has like a look and a feel and a curated eye so that you feel that you're seen, that you're heard, that you're cared for, that you're in the best company, right? And like we deserve that as women.
Absolutely.
You know, I don't know how else to describe it, except I feel like we deserve that.
So tell us what to expect. So what to expect in the future, where we can start going to get more information, and just...
Well, like I said, we're going to do these, we're calling them a C2, Cancer Redefined, a summer series of conversations. And we're going to put those out, YouTube, Instagram, those types of things, and just start to ignite an interest, you know, and sort of let that organically grow into the next step of this, which would be obviously more full-fledged programming online in those capacities that we talked about, like, DIY, full service. Let me just pick one little thing.
When it comes to being a woman, number one, we run a household, we get our hands dirty, it's a stressful job. Motherhood is probably, in my opinion, the hardest thing I've ever done, and I think a lot of women feel that way. Absolutely. So you struggle to put yourself first. Right. So this C2 would offer that freedom, but also the resources to do that, correct?
Exactly.
So
exactly. No, I mean, you have to put yourself first, right, on the list. I almost feel like in some way that's what a diagnosis does. Like, it hits you over the head and says, wake up. You are not, at least I can just speak for me.
No, you're speaking for both of us. It's sort of like, I'm sorry, yes, I did hear what you said. Yeah, I'll get back to you.
Okay, yeah. And then if not, you're like, you're lost in it, right? If you don't put yourself up on the list first, you absolutely have to.
And see, that's a different approach, because I feel like if I put myself first, then I'm going to concentrate too much on the disease.
Right.
Whereas if I put all that back and I'm just like, it's no different than going to the pharmacy, picking up my prescription, taking the tablets, and then carrying on.
Right.
But I think, to your point, I don't think we allow ourselves to say it's okay to feel that at that moment.
Exactly.
And if you feel like crying, if you feel like screaming, because that's what I did a lot. I just kept screaming and using expletives.
Yeah.
And it's like, really? Really?
Yeah,
Is this what you're going to tell me? And
there's a lot of anger.
Yeah.
You have to process that all. Like, you can't pretend that doesn't exist.
Yeah.
And I don't know, this is probably wrong, but I think there's something like, you can feel a very deep emotion like anger, sadness, whatever, all those for like 90 seconds. You can I think there's a science that says you can work through that in 90 seconds and then have that release. Like, you can't pretend it didn't happen, because it's just going to keep showing up.
You said something that hit a nerve with me, and you used the word joy. From July 29, 2011, I didn't feel joy for at least a full year. And it was actually the following year. And I didn't even know I was feeling joy. I had to all of a sudden go, wait a minute. And it was actually...
Because you were numb.
I was so numb, and I had such good support from friends. I didn't want it to be the swan song, like, here's all my friends coming to help me. These are, really brilliant people. But I remember being at Latitude. I love my festivals, sorry. And I remember standing there, and I had been through the most horrendous year. My marriage of nearly 25 years was dissolving. I got diagnosed with this horrible, and it wasn't even a pretty one. Like, I didn't get something like, no offense, breast cancer. That you don't feel so embarrassed to say, but when you have to talk about the not so pretty areas that get it, then it becomes like, I've just had cancer. I don't want to say anything else. And I remember standing there listening to Elbow, because she knows I love Elbow. And I was with my friends, and I was with my sons, and I just caught myself. And I'm like, oh my God, I've got joy again. And you just feel, when you're diagnosed, you realize how precious that is, that you can enjoy yourself for that moment.
Right.
And that was something that didn't occur until after. And I wish I had something like this, so that I could have been experiencing all those times that my friends were trying to give me.
But what brought that out to you is music, right?
Yeah.
So that's another piece in our principles is, music is healing. Everything from sound healing, like bowls and that whole thing, but also just like, there's certain music that I gravitate towards, and it just is healing.
Does it make it bad if you go for U2 as opposed to something like Yanni or something?
No, it's like,
just saying.
No, U2, like, all of it is amazing, right?
Yeah.
But that's a piece, right? Like, you have to fill your mind, body, spirit with whatever it is, and headphones that you just tune into that music, whatever it is. It doesn't have to be just like woo-woo music, spiritual music or whatever,
No.
I think I lost track of what your question
I think the
was.
healing,
but,
Well, the putting yourself first. And then let's lean further into that. So Ren's 10 years in, you're 4 years in. Does the healing ever stop?
Well, I think it's a continuum, quite frankly. And I feel like if we can somehow bookend the whole journey where like you have, if we can set up ourselves, like if I set up myself for success in the very, very beginning through mind, body, spirit practices, then along the way, and then continual, right? Like to not just like, I mean, yes, you want to forget it. Obviously, you want to put it behind you. You definitely want to put it behind you. But there are symptoms. There's like shit that continues on. It doesn't just dissipate.
I think for women, I don't know about you, I was on Xylitol, which is capecitrine, which is also treats breast cancer.
Right.
And I don't know about you, there are things they don't tell you.
No, they don't.
They don't tell you, like what you see on telly here, where they give you, and this can cause you to die if you take it, that kind of thing. One of the things that I found is that it actually, my cognitive functions, I struggle, whereas I used to have all these things like that. And it took me a while to realize it was actually a result of that, because I just thought, I'm getting old. Especially when you get to my age, you start thinking hormonal changes. And in fact, before I left, they said, no, it will have an effect. It just determines to what degree.
Right. And they don't know that.
And they don't know that.
And then there's another drug that maybe helps that.
Correct. It's that one.
And then there's another drug that helps that or whatever. So, I mean, it's definitely like there's a storm and there's life that...
Oh, God.
Yeah. I mean, a friend of mine made a film called Life After the Storm. About that, there's more, right? And so if we can continually create ways that we can work
identify
through that.
and understand that and not feel like it's something else. That's I didn't know what it was.
And not be scared, right? And just
it's like why I can't speak the way I want to speak.
It's like chemo brain.
Yeah. That's it's actually a term, chemo brain. You just like there are certain words to this day I cannot say because in my brain it's saying it, but my mouth is just not pronunciating it correctly. Yeah. And so when anyone says, oh, Ren, why do you talk that way? I'm just like, listen, at least I'm talking. All right? Give me a break. At least you can understand me most of the time.
So much excitement. Just sitting down with this and having been in a family where we lost someone to cancer, the whole process of it is just... it's tolling, on your mind, on your body, on your spirit. And I love that there's a place that, women can potentially go to recharge and reset. So, Christine, thank you for what you're doing.
Oh, thank you, Beth.
Ladies,
thank you, Lindsey. Thank you.
Where were you 10 years ago?